Thank you a lot for that question. We have seen it become a problem in my years of experience. Because as you know, Priscilla, if you are going to make your last payment on a weekend, if you are going to make a payment on a weekend, it's only going to reflect the next coming business day, which usually puts our provisional taxpayers at a risk of incurring those penalties that we just spoke about.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I am Priscilla, and today we are unpacking an important topic for many, provisional taxes, especially with the upcoming deadline that is just around the corner. To help unpack what you need to know, I am joined today by a special guest, Thokozile Kumalo, an experienced and a seasoned tax consultant from Tax Consulting South Africa. She will be answering key questions and sharing expert insights to help you stay compliant and confident this filing season. Hello, Thokozile. How are you doing today?
I am good, thanks, Priscilla. And how are you today?
I am excited. I'm excited to discuss and unpack provisional taxes with you.
It is an interesting topic, so I'm just as excited to be with you.
Yes. Could you please explain what is provisional tax and its purpose?
Most definitely, Priscilla. So provisional tax is a method that was implemented by SARS to assist or help taxpayers with paying their taxes in advance. These taxes are paid twice in a duration of a year and are used to reconcile a taxpayer's tax affairs upon submission of their annual tax return. It is important to note that provisional taxpayers, are required to file and pay their taxes upon each and every semester.
Now let's discuss the purpose of provisional tax.
Oh, yes. So the purpose of provisional tax is to assist taxpayers with avoiding any possible tax liability exposure that may be borne by the taxpayer upon submission of their annual tax return. So I just want to make this important note. Provisional tax, it is not an additional tax. It's not an additional tax, but rather it is an advance payment towards your total tax liability during the tax year in question.
Wow, thank you. So then who qualifies as a provisional taxpayer?
So just to quote from the Act, because this is something that governs us and we just ensure that everything aligns with the Income Tax Act, a provisional taxpayer is someone who derives or receives their remuneration from an employer who is not registered for an income tax. This is as per paragraph 15 of the fourth schedule in the Income Tax Act. And it is also a person who receives remuneration or income, who receives income other than remuneration or an allowance as per section 8(1) of the Income Tax Act.
Thank you. So then what documents would taxpayers need to gather in preparation of the provisional tax season?
So the exact documents will always vary depending on a taxpayer's individual's situation as well as their personal financial situation. However, we advise taxpayers as well as our clients to make use of the actual information they've been able to source during that relevant tax year. And they could consider the use of the previous tax year certificate or information for estimate. And this is just to make sure that we get the best possible estimate as we submit their provisional tax calculations or returns.
Yes. From your experience, Thokozile, what source documents can you give us examples of source documents that you would request?
Again, just to emphasize, it will always vary with the individual. But if we are just going to be specific, looking at an individual who works abroad, a document that would require would be their foreign employment payslips, as well as their inside and outside work and leisure days. And this is to prove as well as to track the eligibility to avoid the relevant tax exemptions or reliefs.
Now, touching on the in and outside of the Republic work and leisure days, what would you request from your clients?
Passport stamps.
Yes.
Passport stamps are so important because This is used to track the entry as well as the exit in the Republic. So as you enter, it is stamped. As you exit, it is stamped. The passport stamps would be sufficient enough for us to provide to SARS.
Wow. Thank you. And what are the risks if someone fails to submit these returns and make payments on time?
So this is the one topic that's always difficult to recite, but we need to make our taxpayers aware. Yes. So the risk that provisional taxpayers have is that should the prescribed provisional tax payment deadline lapse, then they would be unfortunately subject to a 10% penalty. And this is as per paragraph 27 of the fourth schedule in the Income Tax Act, read together with Chapter 15 of the Tax Administration Act. And in addition to that, there's also an interest that is charged on the outstanding balance. So this is calculated from the end of the provisional tax period up until the outstanding balance is fully settled.
That is quite significant.
It's a lot. It's hectic.
I want that for anyone else.
Definitely.
Now, Thokozile, what are the key dates that taxpayers should be aware of?
So as I mentioned earlier, Priscilla, a provisional taxpayer is required to submit upon each and every semester. Essentially, that would mean 2 provisional tax deadlines, right? So the first provisional tax deadline it falls within the first 6 months of the tax year, which usually starts from the 1st of March up until the 31st of August. And with the second provisional tax deadline being the last business day of the month of the tax year, which again usually falls on the 28th of February. And there's also one that most taxpayers, I think, are not aware of, which is called the third voluntary payment. And the deadline for this, again, it also has a deadline. The deadline for this is on the last business day of September. And the following year. It's the following year.
We definitely need to discuss and unpack the third provisional tax soon. Seeing that the 2026 first provisional tax deadline falls on a Sunday, is there anything that we should be on the lookout for?
Thank you a lot for that question. We have seen it become a problem in my years of experience. Because as you know, Priscilla, if you are going to make your last payment on a weekend, if you are going to make a payment on a weekend, it's only going to reflect the next coming business day, which usually puts our provisional taxpayers at a risk of incurring those penalties that we just spoke about. So for the 2026-01 provisional tax period, we strongly urge our taxpayers to submit, file, and pay their taxes on the 29th of August 2025.
Thank you, Thokozile, for the insights. Do you have any final advice for the taxpayers?
You're most welcome, Priscilla. My final piece of advice is to always seek professional help from a registered tax practitioner. Tax is a very complicated matter, and consulting with an expert in this to ensure the best tax compliance can make you avoid having costly mistakes.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Some key insights to help you prepare for the upcoming provisional tax season. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.